Welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for spinning that dial in my direction on the YouTube network. Appreciate all your viewers. Today we're going to go back to a common theme. Yes, it's a Majohn fountain pen that I ordered, and it's part of my collection series. Let's take a look at it. Mr. Sizemore says, I like the pen. It's really nice, but it's too fat for me to fit on. We'll address that later. Certainly do feel this pen is turntable worthy. We'll just do a few turns, and Mr. Crab says, I can hold up this pen, and he is right. It is a large pen, but not necessarily a heavy pen. And I do love the way this wood version looks, as Mr. Crab gives us a wink as he rotates around. And as we open up the box, we'll see the pen. And yes, it was in a cellophane wrapper. Nice and crinkly sound. This surprised me. I didn't expect to get a second nib, but we'll look at that in a minute. And it comes with a manual that's now branded Majohn and not Moonman. Open it up and it just has simplistic directions on the different filling systems, which there are a ton of them. It also discusses fountain pen cleaning, idle fountain pen cleaning, precautions for use. Very nice. And we also have your classic warnings and cautions. So you know I love my Q1s. When I saw that the pen came in a wood version, I said, I gotta have it. Of course, I got the African sandalwood and not the ebony, because ebony is just black and it really doesn't look like wood. This looks great, feels great, excellent finishes, all the Q1s have. And it is super cute. The cap comes off in a little less than 1.5 turns, and we'll see a nice number 6 nib. But we'll see it says Jinhao. So the spare nib they gave me was the Moonman nib. So somehow this pen got a Jinhao nib on it. I may leave it on there. We don't know. But I just think this is an excellent wood pen design. I enjoy wood pens. It's a nice material, but it's not the best material to make fountain pens out of. You know, it's only strong in pretty much one direction, so in compression it's good, in tension it's not. But they did an excellent job with this design. Very, very impressed. We unscrew the section. This is eyedropper only. So you got a nice O-ring there. And if you look inside, the entire barrel is one plastic liner. Very thick construction, similar to what we saw in the acrylic models. And if we look at the cap, we'll also see a full plastic liner in there. It's just beautiful job. I'm impressed with what they did. So here's how the box got rebranded from the stylized Moonman to the Majohn. Same description down here, but I think slowly everything is going to say Majohn and nothing will say Moonman. Listings may still say Moonman because that name brand still has panache in the pen community, at least from my perspective. But as Kaweco has sued them and they can't use this in a lot of places, Europe especially, they're now gone to the more Chinese pronunciation of the brand. And another example of the branding change is, here's your Moonman instruction manual, and here's your Majohn instruction manual. So I spent a lot of time in commercial product development where we made millions of units. And when you're doing this type of change, you're going to exhaust whatever existing inventory that you have. And considering this is a pamphlet that is in a lot of their pens, I'm certain they made millions of them and then realized or was found out that they needed to rebrand them. So then they made the next run that they ordered, they put Majohn on it. So the later pens will say Majohn, and eventually, when they exhaust the old inventory, everything will say Majohn. So one of the things that's consistent with all of my Q1s, and I do have a lot, we'll look at all of them eventually, is the fit and finish is just beautiful. And that labeling on that cap band is just great, and the clip lines up right in the middle of that Majohn. Well, not quite the middle. It's kind of between the J and the O, but it's pretty well done. Say what you will about this design, but you cannot fault the fit and finish. It is exemplary. I think Moonman is certainly up their game, at least in this model. The other thing to admire about the Wood Q1 is they put a bigger cap band at the bottom of the cap, but still maintain that same aesthetics. And the pen is overall longer. We'll show you those dimensions of the regular Q1 and the Wood Q1. I'm impressed. I always appreciate it when a pen manufacturer goes to the extra details to accommodate using a different material to make their pens. I decided to swap out the Jinhao nib for the Moonman nib. It was very easy to pull out the feed. That place inside there is keyed, so there's a flat spot here at the bottom to coincide with the flat spot at the bottom of the feed. We'll just put the Moonman nib in place on the feed, and then we'll put it in there. And you never want to force these nibs. They should go on relatively easily, and it slides into place very well. And I like the way that two-tone color looks. Now this is a legitimate Moonman Q1 with the correct nib. So as Majohn expanded their Q1 line, they came out with two colors. This is tortoise. The other one is clown. Here's what that looks like. But I decided on tortoise because I have a fondness for this, just like I have a fondness for wood in my pens. As you can see, the same exemplary fit and finish that we find on all the Q1s. And that cap comes off in that. It's a little over 1.5 turns, so that's a little bit different. And we'll see this now, the section, the same color as the cap and barrel. As we explore what I'll call the first generation, this is the second, and I call Wood the third. The first generation was a little bit of a different color combination, which now they're replicating in their M700 line, which I find interesting how they've blended some of those design elements between their different pens. I like that. Here are all four colors in what I call the Gen 1 line. And Gen 0 I'll call the clear one, which is at one time was the easily attainable Q1, but they've expanded, I think, and produced more inventory. So here we have what's called green, which I really love, brown, blue, purple, and black. So I thought what was really cool is the top finial and the barrel are a complementary, somewhat transparent color. So these you can see the ink level, where you can't see it in the wood ones or the tortoise or clown ones, which are opaque. The same exact quality here that I found throughout the Q1 line and most of the Moonman higher end pens, which I would say are the pens that sell generally a little bit over $20 US. As we look at this, that resin is just amazing. Mosaic color is what I've referred to it a lot. And if we unscrew the cap, almost 2 turns. So they're not consistent. They have those threads at the bottom of the section which fit into the cap well. And we'll see that classic two-tone Moonman nib. And this barrel and the section and barrel match. And all of them are eyedropper only, which is what you would expect from the design. That's an incredibly thick wall. Yeah, I did silicone grease this stuff so I could make certain it was sealed up properly. So these are just, again, engineering, design, fit and finish. Some people may not like the aesthetics, but I think they're great, and they also are good writers, which we'll see when I write with the clear one, which I've had inked up since the day I got it. We're just going to quickly show you this close up so you can get an appreciation of the cracked ice resins that they use in the cap. And again, like, I'm really incredibly pleased how they color matched it to the rest of the pen. The black one I was uncertain about, but it's come out nice. A little bit more of a subtle cracked ice pattern, but it's still fairly nice. We have some interesting sun and LED lights to accent all these details in these pens. So here I have two pens that I ordered approximately the same time. This was ordered from eBay from one of my regular sellers on December 19th, and the Wood one was ordered on Amazon on December 21st. This arrived on January 18th. This arrived on January 6th. So it was 18 days of transit for eBay and 27 for Amazon. And the Amazon pen, I didn't get any updates for almost over 2 weeks as it made its transition from China to the United States. But once it got to the United States, it was delivered quickly. And eBay has been consistent with their eConnect. So I also ordered a black T5 on Amazon, and I got that at the same time as I got the tortoise one. But I was a little bit frustrated with AliExpress because I ordered some T5s at the end of November, and it took 65 days for them to be delivered. But that's an exception. I may order 100 pens from China in the course of a year, and one or two might have some shipping anomalies to it, but most of them get delivered relatively quickly, great tracking, and I'm a pleased customer. We're now in a low light, as low light as I can get in the middle of the day. So it's time for the LED. So I got this black Q1 I thought I would use to show that even with some very, very dark colors, there's still some interesting details and dimensions to that acrylic they used. And it does have a little bit of transparency to it, but not much. As it gets thicker, as they machined that ledge, you can see the light doesn't go through it. But if we look at the barrel, it also has some transparency to it. So you could see the ink. You probably have to use a bright light like this to actually shine through it, but you could see where your ink level was. While we have the LED light out, I thought I'd play it across some other colors. Here's the brown. This is probably one of the more consistent colors, and the cracked ice is certainly a very visible element. And here's the blue/purple, which I called more of a mosaic look, or stained glass look, as you might say. And as like I mentioned, all of these barrels do have some transparency to them, so you could use it to see the ink level. You could definitely see it is a green base there. When I can get a pen like this in totally clear, I generally always get that model because it just shows off how they really finished and fit this pen together. You can see those threads for the section. And also in this clear demonstrator version, you can definitely see that ink sloshing around in there. They did just a great job. Almost 2 turns. And we'll see the only thing from a design aesthetics viewpoint is it's a silver colored nib. And it is an extra fine. That's all I could get when I bought this pen. Here's a look at that nib in fine. You can see how the tipping material differs significantly between those two sizes. I'll give them credit and kudos for doing that. And these nibs are all great writers in my hand. Excellent flow, consistent, feels smooth on the paper. You may say this is a pen you're not comfortable holding, but I don't mind. It's relatively light, even full of ink. Love how that color of the ink comes through the end of that finial on the barrel. A lot of discussion about posting, and to me, these are postable. And it does make it a nicer feel in the hand. It's more balanced with that cap. I mean, the pen is not heavy considering its size, and it's fairly secure. So I think this pen wins on every level, and that's really a beefy section, so you have to be willing to use a section of that size. And if you get down towards the nib, you feel those threads, so you definitely know where you're at. You can move away from the nib, and those threads are not as sharp as the ones at the end, but then that step up is pretty sharp. But I can press and hold this anywhere and feel comfortable with it. I just love the way it looks. I think this clear version is also very worthy of being held up by a crab on a turntable. This pen has been inked since the day I got it, and it's written consistently. You take off the cap and immediately it writes, and we will see it writing. But how the light plays on that clear resin is really beautiful, and it is a crystal clear glass-like resin that's finished very well. Mr. Crab winks and says, "I like the pen." This is the ink that's in the clear pen. I think it works very, very well. And here's the chromatography. Here's some water resistance. But it is just a very nice aqua blue. You know, I enjoy it. I have it in a number of pens, and all of them are great writers. So now for that all-important writing with the pen part of the review. Fountain pens are very personal items. You hold them in your hand, you use them to perform an action such as writing, drawing, doodling, and that makes them quite unique for each individual. And those of you that might consider this pen a novelty, I would say that that's fine. I don't, but I do. And it is a different looking pen, and yes, there were other pens made like this, and this is reminiscent of the early mid-1900s Japanese jumbo pens, which had shut-off valves, and they were also only eyedropper. And I discussed those in one of my earlier Q1 reviews. At least I think I did. And we're going to put together a Majohn Q1 playlist that I'll give you a link for those that would like to see all the rest of the videos on this interesting pen. This is an extra fine nib, which is not my favorite type of nib, but I appreciate it in this pen because this is a knock-around pen, throw in your pocket, carry around with you, take notes with, and that may be on not great paper like this Fabriano paper I use for my ink reviews, or the Rhodey or Clairefontaine or Toma River that I have, but it might be, 20-pound low-cost copy paper, hopefully not newspaper because that's the worst. So enough comments. Let's put nib to paper and spill some ink. So this nib writes, I think, very well. I mean, it is an extra fine nib, so you're going to get some feedback. You're going to feel that nib on the paper. But with no pressure, it really lays down an extra fine line. There's somebody on Facebook that said, what extra fine Chinese nibs write like an extra fine Japanese nib, and I would say this is as close as you're going to get. And a little bit of pressure, you get a little bit more ink flow and it opens up. So that's a decent variation there. So in addition to being a cute pen that's extremely well made and made in many colors, and they've expanded their design aspects, I love it. So I don't remember whether I rated this pen before, but we're going to rate it now. And this is for the whole line. I'm going to give it a 9.4. Gets 1 check because all the nibs are good. It gets 2 checks for design, build, execution. It's as good as they get. And it gets 1 of my checks for being cute. So hopefully you've enjoyed this exploration again of another model of pen that I like. So I want to thank all of you for watching. Those of you that have stuck around to the end. I hope this video finds you safe, healthy, and happy, enjoying your pens, putting ink on paper, because that's what the fun part is to me. And I also enjoyed the look, fit, finish, engineering, design, manufacturing, marketing, distribution, all those aspects. And also all the many sellers that bring these products to us. Thank all of you. Gives me a lot of content for my videos. So this is the end of this video. We're going to say bye. This ink and pen combo worked very, very well. I'm very pleased. Hopefully you find a great pen to write with.